On Mother's Day, my son, a young, wealthy, and busy businessman, came to visit me holding a bouquet as bright as the Sunday morning sun. He placed it on the table, looked at me with a gentle but distant expression, and said, "Mom, Sana still sends you $5,000 every month, right? I just wanted to make sure you're comfortable." I froze. My heart started pounding. $5,000. For the past 8 months, I had been surviving on food packages from the church and small donations from kind neighbors. I whispered, my voice trembling, "Son, the church is helping me get by." He stared at me as the smile disappeared from his face. Then my daughter-in-law walked into the room. Sana. She looked radiant in a silk dress, sparkling high heels, and wore an expensive perfume whose fragrance quickly filled the room. Her smile was dazzling. But her eyes were colder than winter itself. She had no idea that this Mother's Day would become the beginning of the end for every lie she had told. If you're still listening, tell me where you're watching from. Every comment you leave becomes a part of this journey. And if this story touches your heart, don't forget to like and share it so more people can hear it. My name is Renata. I'm a 67-year-old widow living alone in a small house on the outskirts of Dallas, Texas. This little house once echoed with laughter. It was here that my late husband and I raised our only son, Saad. 10 years ago, my husband passed away from a heart attack, leaving me to face life alone. Since then, my days have become simple. I spend my mornings tending my little garden, baking homemade pies, and volunteering at St. Mary's Church. I never had much money, but I always believed I had enough. Until old age arrived. Every month became harder than the last. Medicine became more expensive. Groceries cost more. Utility bills kept rising. Still, I never complained. My son Saad, the little boy I once carried in my arms, is now a millionaire at 38. He owns several successful technology companies, drives luxury cars, and lives in a beautiful mansion with his wife, Sana. I was always proud of him. After all, I raised him with honesty, faith, and kindness. So when he stepped into my home that afternoon, sunlight shining across his tired face, my heart filled with joy. Until he spoke those words. "Mom, Sana still sends you the $5,000 every month, right?" It felt as if someone had stolen every breath from my lungs. My fingers tightened around the edge of my apron. $5,000. I repeated quietly, "Son, I've been surviving with help from the church." Saad's smile vanished. His eyes widened in disbelief. Before he could say anything, Sana gently walked beside him and rested her hand on his shoulder. She smiled sweetly. "Oh, Mother. You probably forgot. I come here every month to bring you the money." I looked directly into her eyes. Calmly. "If you brought it." Then somehow it never reached me. Silence filled the room. Even the ticking clock on the wall sounded louder. Saad looked from me to Sana. Confusion spread across his face. "Sana, you've been bringing Mom the money, haven't you?" She nodded confidently. "Of course. Every single month. Maybe Mother simply forgot. You know. At her age, memory isn't always perfect." The words sounded gentle, but they pierced my heart like a knife. Old age. People often use those words to dismiss elderly people. But my memory was perfectly clear. I remembered every bill I had paid, every prayer I had whispered, every meal donated by the church. And I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Sana had never given me a single dollar. I chose not to argue. Not yet. Some battles aren't won by shouting. Some battles require patience. Saad placed his hand on my shoulder. "Mom. It's probably just a misunderstanding. I'll check everything. I only want you to live comfortably." I smiled. But inside me, something had changed forever. After they left, I sat alone in the quiet house. Sunlight poured across my old wooden table. I quietly calculated the amount in my head. $5,000. Every month. For 8 months. $40,000. Enough to repair my leaking roof. Enough to replace my broken refrigerator. Enough to let me live my remaining years without worrying about every grocery bill. Instead, I had survived on canned food from church donations. That night, I opened an old notebook. For years I had used it to write grocery lists and prayers. But this time, I wrote only 3 words. Find the truth. Then beneath it, never trust fake tears. I closed the notebook, took a deep breath, and made myself a promise. I had survived losing my husband. I had survived loneliness. I had survived poverty. I would survive this betrayal too. If Sana believed I would stay silent forever, she had chosen the wrong mother to deceive. Here are 10 short, emotional, and high CTR YouTube titles based on Part 2. Renata started secretly collecting proof. Sana's lies began to fall apart. Renata found the missing $40,000. Sana couldn't fool Renata anymore. One bank visit changed everything. Renata knew Sana was lying. The truth was hidden in the bank record. Sana's biggest mistake was underestimating Renata. Renata quietly prepared for justice. The secret account exposed Sana's leapest 5 titles, highest click potential. One bank visit changed everything. Renata started secretly collecting proof. Sana's biggest mistake was underestimating Renata. The secret account exposed Sana's lie. Renata knew Sana was lying. These titles fit the suspenseful tone of Part 2 and encourage viewers to continue watching the story. Part 3. The next morning, the warm Texas sun filtered through my kitchen window as I watered the flowers outside. Everything seemed peaceful. Until I heard the sound of an expensive car pulling into my driveway. I looked up. A brand new silver luxury car stopped in front of my house. The driver's door opened. Sana stepped out wearing a beautiful cream-colored dress, expensive sunglasses, and carrying a large gift basket wrapped with a golden ribbon. She smiled as though nothing had happened. "Good morning, Mother. I brought you a little surprise." I smiled politely. "That's very thoughtful." She walked onto the porch and carefully placed the basket on the table. Inside were imported cookies, luxury chocolates, fresh fruit, and an expensive bottle of wine. Beautiful gifts, but none of them could replace.
Part 2. The rest of that afternoon, I remained seated in my small kitchen. The tea on the table had gone cold, but I barely noticed. One question kept repeating inside my mind. Could I be wrong? Maybe the bank had made a mistake. Maybe Sana had mailed the money. Maybe, just maybe, I had forgotten. But the answer came almost immediately. No. I remembered every dollar that entered my house, every grocery receipt, every electric bill, every donation from the church. There had never been an envelope. There had never been a bank transfer. There had never been a single payment from Saad. The next morning, I opened the old ledger I had used for years. Before retirement, I had worked as an accountant. Recording numbers had become second nature to me. Every expense was carefully written. Medicine, utilities, groceries, church donations, everything. But nowhere, not once, did I find a deposit from my son. I closed the ledger. My heart became heavier. Later that morning, I walked to the local bank. A young bank employee welcomed me with a warm smile. "Good morning, ma'am. How may I help you today?" I handed her my bank book. "I need to know if my son, Saad, has transferred any money to my account during the last 8 months." She typed quietly for several minutes. Then she looked back at me. Her expression changed. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Renata. There have been no transfers. The only recent activity is a small interest payment." For a moment, the room seemed to disappear. I thanked her politely and walked outside. The morning wind brushed against my face. I stood on the sidewalk, unable to move. For 8 months. While my son believed I was living comfortably, I had been surviving on church food packages. I clipped coupons before buying groceries. I counted every coin before entering the supermarket. Yet somewhere, $40,000 had vanished. That afternoon, I went to St. Mary's Church. Reverend Cole noticed I was unusually quiet. He sat beside me after the service. "Renata, is everything all right?" I smiled faintly. I'm trying to understand why my son's love never reached me. The Reverend gently placed his hand on mine. Truth always finds its way into the light. I nodded, but this time, faith alone wasn't enough. I needed proof. That evening, I opened another notebook. Instead of writing prayers, I began writing facts. Every visit, every conversation, every excuse, every lie. June 14th, Sana visited, brought a cake, claimed she had already delivered the money. No envelope, no receipt, no proof. July the 12th, she called, said she was busy at a charity event, but I could hear restaurant music behind her. I wrote everything. Without anger, without emotion, only facts. Numbers never lie. Neither do written records. Weeks passed. Sana continued visiting. Every time she looked elegant. Designer handbags, expensive dresses, luxury perfume, small gifts, cookies, flowers, candles, but never the money. One warm afternoon, she arrived in a brand new luxury car. She stepped out smiling. "I brought you flowers, Mother. They'll help you relax." I looked at the flowers, then at her. "My memory is perfectly fine, Sana. It's good enough to remember you've never brought me a single dollar." For the first time, her smile faltered, only for a second. Then she recovered. "Oh, Mother, you must be mistaken. I've always brought it." I calmly answered, "I already asked the bank. They confirmed nothing has arrived for 8 months." Silence. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. She looked uncomfortable. "I'll check with the bank." Without another word, she hurried back to her car and drove away. That evening, I added another note. August 22nd. Sana appeared nervous, avoided eye contact, left much earlier than usual. The lies were beginning to crack. Several days later, I contacted Saad's company. I politely asked to speak with someone in the accounting department. A woman answered, "This is Sandra from accounting." I explained my situation. "My son says he has been sending me $5,000 every month. I simply want to know if that's true." After checking the records, Sandra replied, "Yes. The transfers exist. They're sent every month." I gripped the telephone tighter. "Then why haven't I received them?" Sandra hesitated. "I'm not sure. The recipient's name matches yours, but the account number is different." A chill ran through my body. A different account? Using my name? I thanked her and quietly ended the call. As I walked home that afternoon, I realized something terrifying. Someone had opened another account using my identity. Someone close enough to know every detail about me.